Welcome back to part 2 of How Did They Know? So if you answered all the questions previously in the last video, leaving your comments and answers down in the video or whatever you wanted to say, well then this is part 2 of, following up with the different lessons within class in the science portion. See, a lot of people study physics, quantum physics, astrophysics, so on and so forth, botany, agriculture, etc. But yet, where are the advancements? Because if you remember in the first video of how did they know, well, how did they know someone was in private when certain technologies weren't in place? So was somebody there in person, or did they have the technology already? Remember, this exercise is to get you guys to think critically and ask better questions in order to become better people, right? Because not everybody needs better help therapy. They need to understand, right? So let's get into part 2. Now, mind you, I want you to go ahead and also watch the movie, The Book of Eli, because some of the questions in here will also pertain to not only that movie, but some of the things said in there as well. All right, so let's get into it. How did they know how to use spiritual books as a weapon, right? So in the Book of Eli, they wanted the Bible to use it as a weapon. Why? Because then you can brainwash and mind control people and all these other things, right? People only know what you tell them. And then, of course, if they don't know how to handle their emotions, they'll get emotionally triggered depending on the language that is used to them. This is why sometimes people will switch their language because the brain is listening for key words. Y si yo entiende algo en español, en inglés, I'm going to speak another language just so that you don't get emotionally triggered and we can have a free conversation, because the freedom of speech is something that everybody should have. Is it not? If you don't agree, put your answers why in the comments below. But how did they know to use that as a weapon, right? Because information is the most valuable form of currency. Think about that. If information is the most valuable form of currency, and the people give you the currency, well, then you have to give them some type of information. And of course, what better way of doing that than something that is already in existence and just twisting the words around? Let's continue. How did they know how to write the Bible or other spiritual books in a codex fashion so that it is encrypted correctly for so long or a certain allotted amount of time? How did they know that the stories, even if they did small Mandela effects, change a word here, or if you ever seen the TV show Irrational, where they play with words, right? Did Kendrick Lamar say Mustang, or did he say mustard in his video or his song where he screams, right? I think it's They Not Like Us or something like that, right? Where it's like mustard and the guy's screaming or whatever. How did they know to write it like that? How did they know that it would last that long, etc.? Right? I'm not going to answer this for you. These are for you guys to answer, but I want you guys to think about it as well, right? So let's continue. Last question. How did they keep such information so secret for so long? Well, I mean, think about it. If they were going around and doing certain things, and the stories in the books tell you certain things, then you know that if you had certain knowledge, they would not only take your knowledge, but then kill you afterwards after they got everything off, out of you, right? Or if you were to show some type of ability that can threaten their power, they would take you out. They would neutralize you. Even though it was administratively difficult, they would just find the out. In the movie The Book of Credence, the guy was moving around like a con man and then eventually got put on the spot and then was able to walk on water. And the Roman soldier, remember the scene, right? He said, I wish you didn't do that in front of me, because the Vatican or Rome or whatever was looking for people that can do this. Now we have to kill you. And he ended up on a cross, right? That was because people were flexing and showboating. But then again, how did they know? Why were they killing these people off? Why were they so scared? Why couldn't they work together, right? Because what happens is when people fear other people's abilities, knowledge, wisdom, insight, so on and so forth, their own power too gets put into question. And so they may go and report stuff, make up fictitious lies, so on and so forth, in order to see, is this real or not? Because maybe their faith isn't that strong, or they're playing a game and they are trying to get ahead by cheating. And Lord knows that all the successful people in the world say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So go ahead and cheat. Use ChatGPT, Gemini to answer some of these questions, and then ask it some more questions to see what answers it gives you. But make sure you prompt it correctly, because just as Tony Robbins teaches us to put people into state and how to get into state, you have to put ChatGPT or artificial intelligence into state before you start asking questions so that it can think a certain way. Anyways, this has been part 2 of How Do They Know? Take care. Peace.